Understand who wrote the books of the Bible. Learn facts about the Bible and who wrote each book. Christians believe that God inspired human beings to write the words that He wanted to be included in each of the books. So even though He is the author, humans did the writing. However, people often wonder, what is the truth? So who did He choose to do such an important job, and who wrote which books? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Number, and Deuteronomy, the first 5 were written by Moses. Moses was an Israelite who was raised as Egyptian royalty. His story is well known by people of all faiths. Joshua was written by Joshua, an aide to Moses who eventually took over leadership of the Israelites from Moses. Judges. The authorship of some of the books of the Bible is unclear. It is thought that perhaps Samuel, a judge, wrote this one. Ruth, the author of this love story, is unknown. 1 Samuel, it is believed that the judge Samuel wrote most of this book. It may have been added to by the prophets Nathan and Gad. 2 Samuel, the authorship of the majority of the book is unknown. There is some evidence that the prophets Nathan and Gad contributed. 1 and 2 Kings, these books also have unknown authorship. Some believe the prophet Jeremiah or a group of prophets authored them. 1 and 2 Chronicles, Ezra, and Nehemiah. According to Jewish tradition, Ezra, who was a priest, a scribe, and a Jewish leader, is the author. Esther may have been written by Mordecai, one of the central figures in the book, although it is not certain. Job. This famous story was possibly written by Job himself, although the authorship has never been confirmed. Psalms. King David wrote 73 of the 150 poems in this book. Other authors include Solomon, Ethan, and Moses. 51 of the Psalms are anonymous. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. These wisdom books were written by King Solomon, son of King David. Isaiah was written by the prophet Isaiah. Jeremiah and Lamentations, these books were written by the prophet Jeremiah. Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, and Obadiah, these prophetic books were all named after the prophets who authored them. Jonah, this story is attributed to the man who sat in the belly of the whale himself, Jonah. Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. The final books of the Old Testament were prophetic books and were named after the men who were their authors. Matthew, this gospel was written by one of Jesus' disciples, Matthew. Mark, This Gospel was written by John Mark. He was not one of the disciples, but he was an early follower of Jesus Christ. Luke. Luke was a physician and a friend of the Apostle Paul's. John. The final Gospel was written by the disciple, John. Acts. The book of Acts was written by the same Luke who wrote the Gospel Luke. Romans, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 and 2 Thessalonians, 1 and 2 Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. These books were all written by the Apostle Paul. Paul was a Jew who originally persecuted the Christians, but was converted to Christianity. Hebrews. The author of this book is unknown, but most likely it is Paul or someone close to Paul. James. 1 and 2 Peter, 1, 2 and 3 John, and Jude. These letters were all named for the men who wrote them. Revelation. This last prophetic book of the Bible was written by the disciple John. Now that you have learned how to understand who wrote the books, you can use these facts in your next study group or just as you are reading and referencing in your personal readings. Quick tips. The stories of all the men who wrote the books are in the Bible itself. To learn more about them, read their stories. Useful links. Bible Gateway.